Woman demands I give up my seat. This happened during the long weekend at an Easter party at my cousin's house. My 16M dad and I had arrived early, and I managed to snag the armchair that's isolated from the other seats. This armchair was optimal for me, being I'm antisocial and introverted and I hate being touched unprompted. The other seats are couches and bar stools at a bench. More people arrive, great and fine. The woman, we'll call her B, who usually sits in the armchair, comes up to me. I don't know how old she is, but she's way older than I am, and pretty rich too. B, can I sit there? Me stares at her because WTF. B, could I sit there? Me, air. She never even said please. I didn't want to say no, not to be rude, but I also didn't want to say yes because I'm sitting there. B, there are plenty of seats. She looks around at the other seats and points to them to make a point, as if that logic doesn't also apply to her. Me, MHM. B, you could learn some manners. I was flabbergasted at this. I didn't even say anything. B, you could use them someday. Me, yep. She walks away. I whip out my phone and message my friends about it because... What? Then she has the audacity to go up to my dad, right in front of me as I'm messaging my friends. B, your son was really rude to me. Dad, really? He looks at me, then back to B. B, yes. He won't let me sit there. Dad looks at me again as I try not to burst out laughing because she sounds like a child dobbying on another child. Oh, B, he has no manners. Dad, oh well. B, you should teach him some manners. Dad, he actually injured himself pretty badly and can't really walk. I told him to sit there. Father coming in clutch for me and lying to her face. B, oh, if I had known, I wouldn't have said such things. He just had to let me know. Then she starts kind of babying me. I'm pretty sure at some point during the conversation she asked my dad to tell me to move. Overall, it was a bizarre experience and I sat there for pretty much the entirety of lunch. As I said, she started babying me and I felt gross about it. I asked my dad for literally just a cracker with some dip and she dove right in and said she would get it for me even though I asked my dad. Then she grabbed my shoulder into a death grip and told me she would do whatever I needed, that I could always come to her. I felt even less bad about not giving her my seat because of this. When my dad and I left, he asked me what happened and I explained it, while laughing, of course. He said because she's rich and so much older than me, she thinks she's entitled enough to ask younger people for things and expects to get it. Story 2. Is it okay to not go to my sister's surprise marriage proposal? I, 25F, endured 3 years of extremely unfair treatment from my family in my relationship with my husband. His introduction to the family was initially just coming to church. He drove 3 hours one way to attend, and I had to fight to be able to spend time with him. I got told I was dating instead of soulmating, and had to basically not have a relationship while having one. My older sister said I was a bad example to other people while my other sibling had 2 boys she was involved with at church at the same time. He also happens to be shorter than me, which was a complaint. Perhaps their vision of who I would be with was something else. He's honestly an amazing human who I'm blessed to be with. If he came in a different form, they wouldn't have treated him the way they did. He's still around because of his connections to church, but when it comes to family, he'd gladly not engage. They've really soured the pot. As soon as we got married in March 2023, everyone was loving, nice, and approving of us. It was very much night and day. My older sister, now 29, was a major antagonizer and not respectful of the relationship at all. She had never talked to a boy before. My older sister started talking to a guy from church a month after my wedding. Now a year has passed and he's going to be proposing to her in 2 weeks. This guy honestly is a good person, but them combined just rubs me wrong. I see them engage, they go on dates, they're able to talk about their future. These are all things that I was shamed for and mistreated for. I had to confront her in late 2023 to address that she treated me terribly. I got an apology, but it didn't truly address jealousy and the ridiculous bias she displayed. She hasn't taken steps to truly work on the relationship she broke. She's focused on what she wants. There's going to be at least 20 people attending this proposal, and everyone is participating and helping out in the process. She's even sent me wedding dresses, and she hasn't been proposed to. I got no emotional support through my whole relationship process and forced to pay for and have a wedding. The joy and happiness that finding a lifetime partner brings was stolen away. Being near this relationship has drained me in ways I didn't think possible. I'm trying to grow up and heal, but it's really starting to become unbearable. Everyone around thinks she's amazing and great, and the only one in the back who thinks she isn't a good person is her younger sister, who she was evil to. Mind you, there are 2 other sisters, and they are fine and supporting. I don't know if I should suck up going to this engagement and future wedding. I know it will cause problems if I don't. Story 3. AITA for returning gifts to my family and asking them to leave after they insulted my daughter's name? Not the a-hole. I, 26F, gave birth to my first child 3 weeks ago. My daughter and my family are not happy with the name I chose. My parents and siblings had wanted me to name my daughter Agatha or Agnes because those are family name and part of a theme my family keeps, where the oldest girl and the youngest girl pass the initials of their name to their children, and because my name also begins with an A, they had wanted me to do this as the youngest. My oldest sister followed the tradition. My mother's oldest and youngest sisters did. My cousins did it. But my husband and I did not want to follow the tradition, and we didn't want a classic name for our baby anyway. We chose the name Indy for our daughter. I had told my family during my pregnancy that I was not using Agatha or Agnes or an A name for my baby. I told them more than once, in fact. For some reason, they decided Agatha would be the name. When my daughter was born and my family came to visit us at the hospital, I had a C-section and was in the hospital for a few days afterward. They were shocked by the name we chose. They asked me what I was thinking going for a name like that, and then told me I had broken the tradition for some weird name that doesn't make sense. My husband asked them to leave the hospital if they couldn't keep their opinions to themselves. They apologized, which I believed was sincere, and they came to our house with gifts. But when I saw the gifts, I noticed anything personalized had the name Agatha on it. And when I asked about it, they told me Agatha was a much better name, and surely I didn't want my daughter to have a dumb modern name like Indy. My mom told me she could not understand me picking such a hideous name, and she said my husband and most of my friends had set bad examples with their names, but I should stick to classics because they are classic for a reason. She told me they would never be able to accept the name Indy in the family. I returned all the gifts to their packaging and returned them to my family before asking them to leave. I told them they did not get to insult my daughter's name again, and push so hard for us to change the name we as her parents had decided on. My recovery from surgery has been slow, so my husband was the one to make sure they actually left. But they were upset that I was responding to them like I was. They told me I should have been more honest about the name earlier, and I was punishing them for thinking more of my daughter than my husband and I were. I do feel bad for returning the gifts and kicking them out, and the number of texts they have sent since tell me they don't like it either. But AITA? Story 4. ITA for telling my girlfriend I'm bothered by the way she and her family treat their house staff? I'm 25M. Dating this girl, 24F, for about 5 months. I knew her family was well off based on the stories she told me about her upbringing, but I didn't get a chance to meet her parents until this week when we all went to their beach house to spend a few days and celebrate her father's 60th birthday. The house wasn't just huge, but it also employed a staff of about 8 people. I was never used to being served like that, and I witnessed some behaviors from my girlfriend and some of her family towards the workers that made me feel uncomfortable. Some examples. After our first night, I heard her mother tell one of the housekeepers to clean the bedroom my girlfriend and I were staying in. I told her mother everything was in order and that I already made our bed before leaving. Her mother then told me, in the presence of the housekeeper, that I shouldn't bother because that's her, the housekeeper's, job. B. The other morning my girlfriend and I woke up after everyone else had their breakfast. I went into the kitchen to grab some coffee and saw the cooks were already starting to prep for lunch, so I told them I didn't want to bother them and made the coffee myself. My girlfriend came into the kitchen moments later and saw me making coffee. Later that day she complained to her mother, without even asking me how things came about, that the cooks left me to make my own coffee. I had to explain everything. See, on her father's birthday, they had a fancy dinner with some other guests that came just that day, and some of the staff was made to stand in the room with their backs to the wall as we sat at the table and ate. It was like some Downton Abbey shit. I kept my mouth shut for the entire trip. But as soon as we came back, I couldn't hold it any longer and told my girlfriend it made me really uncomfortable to see how she behaved towards the staff, and also gave some examples of instances when I felt her parents were rude to them. My girlfriend didn't take this well. She said that I'm the AH here for judging their lifestyle. In her mind, we had a perfect week together, and I was withholding my judgment until I could unleash it all on her. I don't think I'm an AH for speaking my mind. Story 5. Was I wrong to tell a friend they aren't invited to the wedding? Relationships/family. I thought I was doing the right thing by telling someone they weren't invited to the wedding, but now I'm thinking it wasn't the best idea. Curious if anyone else has had a similar situation. For context, sorry it's long, haha. I met this person through work and continued to talk when I left the job, so we've been friends for about 5 years. We live in the same city, but don't see each other often, so our friendship is mainly through text and voice notes. I would consider this a friendship where they view it stronger than I do. She has said I would likely be a bridesmaid at her wedding when she gets married one day, but I know I would not do the same, though we aren't having a bridal party anyways. My wedding is about 50 people, with 38 of that being family. So we have very limited room for friends and had to be selective about who we chose. My fiancé and I decided we would choose friends that we are both friends with. This person is someone that only I am friends with, and my fiancé would not choose to spend time with this person otherwise. If you had asked me a year ago, this person would have been 100% on the guest list. We've gone to concerts together, we helped them move into their house, they came to our housewarming party, and I had talked wedding high-level details with them before we had anything solidified, aka the venue and date. In the last 6-ish months, we have talked a lot less and our interests aren't the same anymore. We have not seen each other since August and live in the same city. I know she was expecting an invite, so I wanted to get ahead of it so that she didn't find out through social media. As most of our communication is through text, I decided to send a voice note since we weren't going to see each other soon. I explained the limitation in our numbers and that I love them, but unfortunately we had to make tough choices with our guest list. I let them know they are on our list of invitees if family declines and we have spots open up. This person has not spoken to me since I sent this a few days ago. I knew she was going to be upset, so I want to give her time, but now I'm worried this sealed the fate of our friendship. Part of me feels guilty because I know I hurt her feelings, especially with the history of the friendship. We have had really great times and been a big part of each other's life. But maybe I'm just sad that our friendship could come to an end when there wasn't really anything wrong to begin with, we just drifted apart. After reflecting on this, I think if this person was so important in my life, I would have fought to have them on the A-list. Obviously, a roller coaster of emotions and wedding planning is already stressful, so I feel like that's not helping the situation. Curious about people's thoughts and perspectives on the situation if you have been on my side or on the receiving side. Obviously, I can't turn back time, but it is weighing on me. Story 6. I know called no-showed a dentist office twice, and it's biting me in the ass. Recently, my wisdom teeth have become an issue. One top back one is basically crumbling in my mouth. Way back, about a year or two ago, before this tooth was ever an issue, I scheduled a dentist appointment because I hadn't been to one in 1 to 2 years. Figured I should go. I also assumed my husband would go with me, but he had work. I'm scared of the dentist. I'm terrified of the dentist. And the doctor. Anything healthcare related, I'm scared. He wasn't interested in going, he said I was an adult, etc. So I did the adult thing and chickened out. Instead of being a decent human being, I didn't call and cancel because I didn't want to know if they were going to be upset with me about canceling with such short notice. So I did what would make anyone upset and just didn't show up. My teeth became an issue, so I called and made an appointment. Fingers crossed, maybe they wouldn't remember I NCNS my last appointment. This was a year after the NCNS. I go in, alone again, and the receptionist tells me I'm on a list. So the dentist won't see me that day, but I can reschedule.
Awesome, I'm mortified.
So embarrassed. I debated not rescheduling, but at the time my tooth was bothering me. I didn't go to that appointment. I chickened out because I figured everyone there would know me as the serial NCNSer and be angry at me. I don't want angry people working on my teeth when I'm already terrified of being there, especially when I'm alone too. That brings us to what's going on now. My back top wisdom tooth broke. I couldn't ignore it. The stabbing and scratching my cheek, and it's broken. I ignored it for a month before it broke again and began stabbing my cheek. So it's infected and painful. I went to a different dentist and they did x-rays. I need to go to an oral surgeon. They gave me a reference for an oral surgeon that's a network for my insurance, but they're about an hour away. My husband cannot legally drive, so that's a bummer. It's going to be impossible getting someone to drive us when I have my wisdom teeth taken out. I don't have anyone that can do it, and he doesn't know of anyone who would be willing to do that. And according to my husband, I 100% cannot drive after. Even if I'm not sedated or put to sleep, they 100% have to do either, and I can't drive after. So he heard that the dentist office I NCNS will take wisdom teeth out. I don't know why the dentist office I went to yesterday didn't tell me about it. Not that I want to go, I very much want to avoid this place as much as possible. This place is about 5 minutes away from where I live. I'm willing to drive an hour to avoid it because I am so embarrassed. But I might have to go there, and I don't know if they'll even be willing to schedule and work on me since I've done this twice. Serves me right, I got what I deserve for doing it. But damn, I'm even more scared of going. Story 7. Disappointed in one of my bridesmaids and not sure what to do. Relationships/family. I have a friend I've known for over 10 years. Over a year ago, I asked her to be a bridesmaid and she accepted. I let her know all events that would be coming with it: bachelorette, bridal shower, rehearsals, and the wedding. She said she was excited and she would be there for all of it. Me and the group started planning all things months in advance so we could all save money, request time off, and make sure we were prepared. 6 months before we even planned the bachelorette, she said she wouldn't be able to go because she doesn't know who would watch her pets for the weekend. I did feel like it was too early and she didn't even try to find a solution, but I let it slide. She then later said she was going to try to come, then said she couldn't because it was expensive. I totally understood because it was a few hundred for where we were staying for the weekend. The week before the bridal shower, she texted my sister saying she couldn't come because it was too far. It was a 30-minute drive, and she lives the same distance that me and half of the group lives from where the bridal shower was at. I did feel like it was a lame excuse considering I had a friend and some family drive 2 hours to be there. I was annoyed but let that go. Now today is 6 days from our rehearsal and 7 days from the wedding. She just let me know she can't make it to the rehearsal because she found out she has to work that day. I'm trying to be forgiving because I understand this is an important day for me and other people still have their life. But I feel like everyone has put in an effort and planned months ahead to make sure they were able to make it. Meanwhile, she has put in zero effort. At this point, she knows none of the other bridesmaids, hasn't showed up to anything at all, hasn't been helpful in any way. She's just showing up and wearing a dress. Speaking of the dress, she ordered her dress last minute from Temu, literally last week, and it doesn't match the theme of any of the dresses the other girls are wearing. I'm aware that the world doesn't stop because you're getting married, and that it isn't a priority for everyone. So I'm absolutely being mindful of that. During all of this, I checked in with her a few times to see how she was doing, thinking maybe it was life stuff or finances, but she said everything was good and she's excited. I'm not a confrontational person, but I'm very frustrated with her at this point. My fiancé is telling me to let it go and just let her show up wedding day not knowing what's going on. Some friends are saying to have her step down since she hasn't been involved in the process at all. A couple others have said to just let her know I'm disappointed and to see what her response is. What should I do? TLDR, my bridesmaid and friend of 10 years hasn't shows up for anything leading up to the wedding and told me 6 days before the rehearsal that she can't be there. Story 1. Story 8. Steal from me? The best revenge is served courtside. My buddy and I like to gamble. Jake and I had a pact solidified by a 5-year bond. He'd often swing by, we'd crash in front of my computer and place sports bets. It was our shared thrill, using my stake account and my cash, but with a gentleman's agreement. Winnings were to be split 50-50. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the stories we'd tell, the highs and lows we'd ride together, or so I thought. It's important to note that he is not as well off as I am. Note, we used my account because stake gives me good perks since I have status with them, free money, events, etc. The betrayal hit when Jake placed a particularly hefty parlay using my account. I was hesitant but trusted our bond enough to let him go through with it. The bet was a long shot, but it hit big. That's when things went wrong. Jake decided the winnings were solely his, severing our agreement. The sting wasn't just about the money. It was the crumbling of a friendship I had valued deeply. Fate, however, has a funny way of setting the scales right. In an unexpected twist, I bought one courtside ticket to an NBA game and received 4. The seller made a mistake. The game was featuring Jake's favorite team, the Heat. The gears in my mind began to turn towards vengeance. I orchestrated a night to remember with our mutual friends, deliberately excluding Jake from the invitation list. We had a great time. Sitting courtside is unreal if you're a basketball fan. I realized the true worth of the evening was in these authentic moments with real friends and not Jake. Throughout the game, we took plenty of photos and videos, shared across social media, purposefully letting Jake know just what he missed out on. It was kind of about rubbing it in. In the end, the courtside seats did more than provide an unforgettable experience. They showed me the difference in real friendship versus fair-weather friendships. And as for Jake, the silence on his end spoke volumes. The lesson was clear. Some friends are silver and others are gold.